Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the table. Welcome to the grown folks table. Are you all ready to have some grown folks conversation tonight?
Bring it
Yes, let's
on.
Let's
go.
do it. Come on.
Well, if you all are watching us tonight, we ask that you go ahead and share this live, share the podcast, let everyone know that they should pull up to the grown folks podcast because we're going to dive into some very intense, what I say is intense conversation surrounding relationships part two. We've been talking about relationships for some time now. We had to bring it back because it is very controversial. As Vicky said, it brings forth a great, robust conversation. And so tonight we are talking about submission.
Yeah.
Come on, robust.
And so you already know when I share, everyone was asking, what are y'all going to talk about tonight? What are y'all going to talk about tonight? I said, well, we're talking about submission. Is it still relevant in the 21st century? I mean, what I'm just going to go ahead and just throw it out there because there's so many commentators already have so much to say about Black women and submission, and we don't know how to submit. We got too much mouth. We don't want to be in relationships. We don't want to let the men lead. So what y'all say at the table tonight? Is submission still relevant in the 21st century?
I think I'll jump into the fire, and I'll just say what works for me and my house. I have no problem submitting, but if you look at it from a biblical perspective, there should be mutual submission to one another. That's biblical. So it's not just women being in a subservient role with men. There are times in your relationship where one is at a different level, who has even a skill set. Let's just use the example of finances. Like, you have a perfect example. Your husband is a financial guru. He understands finances. He brought that to your relationship, and you have submitted to his knowledge and his skill set because it's helped to elevate your marriage as one together at another level. Am I right?
Yes.
All right, it was no problem submitting, was it? Now,
No.
I just think that if you look at it in the negative sense, the way the world tends to look at it, Libby, then you'll think it's the man lording over the woman. I don't think that it's that. And now I will defer to Dr. Libby.
Listen, I haven't even had wine before I started this. So you know what? I wanted to be of a sober mind. You hear me? Of a sober mind. But Vicky, here's the thing. I actually agree with you. I think there has been a negative connotation on it. I do believe that the word submission, I've said this before, has been abused, misused in premarital sessions. Not all. And I think what has happened is they've used it in the terminology where there is an authority over a person. There is dominion, so to speak, which leaves the person under them as property without a voice. That you have to submit to anything that your husband say, and that you don't have any rebuttal to that. You don't have an opinion, or you don't have a mind in the house. And that's the part about submission that I don't like. The way that we abuse the terminology. I think the Bible is clear that we do submit one to another, and that is being selflessness, selfless.
Yes.
That is being respectful of not only of the person, but of the person's opinion, of the person's visions, of the person's aspirations. It is a word that is not as heavy, for lack of a better word. But we've made it so heavy, and not only have we made it so heavy, the church has to be very careful in how heavy it makes it, because you do have men who are abusive. You do have women who are abusive, and they use that as a tool to be able to say, I'm in charge, you have no voice, and you got to do whatever I say. If I say, we're buying a house, no matter whether you think we should or not, you don't have an opinion in that. And so I think the word itself has been given a bad rap. And so there are a lot of women, especially in the 21st century, let's just say, especially in 2021, who just don't ascribe to the word. I like the word better respect one another instead of submit. It works better for me. If I ever have vows in a wedding, the vows are not going to be the vows that the traditional vows. Under no circumstances would I ascribe to that. So, and that's because I know within myself that the word for me just doesn't sit right with me. Do I believe in the equal split of the household? I do. That's something I believe in, and but it'll be my household. And that would be something that we would have to. And the good thing about it is, people that I have dated have had the same thought process.
Okay.
And so it could be very well that in this day and time, that terminology does not have the same kind of what I would say. It doesn't have the same connotation as it did in the past. But there's beauty in it both in the way that you carry it out.
And you say you haven't had any wine, Libby?
That's the reason why.
But you know what? I think it's all part of conversation. I think a lot of times people don't be honest in their conversations from the get. And I think over time with Jay and I, it was honest conversation about submission, or just to be respectful of each other and each other's opinions of who's about to do what. So unlike in Alicia's household, her husband was the better in financial thinking, and in my household, I am the better in financial thinking. And so a lot of, 99.9% of it falls on me. And we realized that when we jumped in the relationship and saw that we were both committing to each other prior to even marriage. And so and so throughout the relationship, through communication and some trial and error, we discovered who were better at what. And once we discovered that, then that person is the person that handles that. And it doesn't lack respect in each of us. It doesn't, just because I handle more of the finances, doesn't lack the respect of knowing that Jay is still the head of our house.
Sure.
So I think it's a lot of times is how people communicate, or if they even communicate.
Yes.
And until you do some counseling with people who have a open mind about things, then I think it can get misconstrued, a lot, because I honestly wouldn't want anyone to feel like they hold ownership of me. I'm just not that girl. You know what I'm saying? And I knew that Jay realized that. But I also respect the fact that I am, his wife, and I honor that too. But you don't hold ownership.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And listen, honey, my husband's gonna have to manage the finances. 1 + 1 is 2. That's all I can give you. Anything else, it's not my ministry. It's not my ministry. And you don't want me to be trying to put the bills together, huh? Say what? Yeah, what? Olivia, why are we missing?
I forgot that one.
I forgot that one. Why are we missing about 500? What you mean?
You know what? So, but is it? But I hear everyone tonight talking about the traditional roles of what that looks like. But are the women today allowing the men to lead? Is submission tied to leadership, or is let's open that up a little bit, because the way everyone presents it tonight sounds less controversial, when it comes to it, but it is something that comes up a lot. What, like in these two different scenarios, what if you have a man that has an alpha personality, right? And then you have a woman that has an alpha personality. Okay. So then how do you get those two persons to understand, that whole submission piece? And then what if you have sometimes in some relationships, you have husbands that can't lead, but the woman wants the man to lead. She's like, I want to submit to you, but you're not giving me anything to submit to. So what's up with that, Vicky? Go ahead. I mean,
wait, let's read what Penny says first before we jump to.
Yeah.
So
my hubby is definitely the head of the household and loves to see the lines in the carpet from the vacuum that he puts in. Right? Yeah, because can't nobody sweep my floor like Tony Cash. I would have swept the floor, and he coming. Didn't nobody sweep the floor? If sweeping the floor gonna make him feel like, then I go ahead and say sweep the floor. Yeah. But go ahead.
You know what? I think Joyce said something very critical here, and what she said is there has to be a discussion. There has to be, oftentimes, even when you get married, and all of us, those of us that are married, we didn't understand what all that meant until we jumped in it and we evolved and we became. I came from a long line of very strong women, who my mom was one of 9 girls and then 3 brothers. And because their father was extremely domineering over their mother, they made a decision that no man was going to lead or rule. Not that I believe they made a pact as little ones. And so I had been tutored at their feet. I really had, don't tell them this, don't let them. I mean, this is 9 girls in my life, very close to my aunts. And I promise you, none of them had successful relationships, not one. And all you got to be is smarter than a 5th grader. And I determined that early. You can't tell me nothing because you barely are holding on to a string. And my parents had longevity, but not a successful. If that's success, then they had success. But there was no intimacy, touching, words. It just wasn't like that in our home. And so my husband and I made a decision in the very early years that the buck stops right here with us. Doesn't matter what we got from the parents. So many times people don't have a prototype, if you will, because I grew up looking at Father Knows Best, Leave It to Beaver. Yes. Those are, I'm a hopeless romantic. But I was looking at they slept in separate beds back then. But anyway, I never tried to bring twin beds in, I promise. But I think it's a conversation you have to have. Yes. And what do you want in your relationship? And so often we don't talk enough to each other. Maybe we talk at each other and bark out orders, but having a conversation on what are goals. I think we're going to talk about relationship goals. That's a goal. How do you want to build your family unit to ultimately include children? When can you fall back? Because even if you look at a biblical precedent, Libby, when John the Baptist, when Jesus came, he fell back. He became the lesser. It was no problem for him because he knew he had prepared the way. Sometimes in our relationships with our spouses or our significant others, you fall back. I heard a man say that about his wife who was being celebrated for great success. He said, I had no problem falling back and allowing the sun to shine on my wife.
Well, let me ask you this. What about, okay, so here's 2 things. I don't know if you all know who Kevin Samuels is, but
yeah, we know.
Girl.
Well,
Y'all should have told me to get some wine tonight.
Kevin Samuels says a woman's submission is tied to her attraction to a man.
Says the man that been divorced umpteen times.
Hello.
Now, you know what? Kevin Samuels is a monkey joke, because here is the thing. Well, let me just say monkey fool, because there's no need to sugarcoat, that. But so my thing is this: he has this thing where he loves to almost uh, bring women down, if you will, in the way that he's dealing with them. And I don't think that that's right. I don't like how he constantly does that. And I don't care what you do, he or whatever you say, he always get these vulnerable women that wants to hear what he's doing. Never getting anybody that has a voice, has a mind. They're always vulnerable women that he's giving this advice to, and he always deals with women the way a woman looks, the way a woman deals with the man. He never talks about anything else, which to me comes out his own stuff. But hey, here nor there. My thing is this: everybody that's talking about submission don't even read the Bible. So you got folk that wanting to do something that they don't even read up. They don't even pick up a Bible. They don't go to a church. They are just wanting to have a certain kind of leadership role. Sure, I think within your relationship, and Vicky said it best, there is some fallback periods. There are periods where you do allow your woman to shine, your man to shine. There are periods when you do let your husband take over the lead of something. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think that's fair, because I think marriage is a balance. There's some things, as Joyce said, that one person is good at, the other person is not. It's the same in the dating period. If we date intentionally, we will find out these things. We will find out if somebody's using the word submission and misconstruing it and using it in a way to just have authority, or if somebody sees it as a way, they grew up in a traditional space or traditional church, and they see marriage in that honorable way, then you receive it different.
But okay, so submission sometimes is good for people when they agree, right? Okay, I agree. But what about when you don't agree?
Then I don't think that's
where the conversation comes in at. That's where you have to talk.
It goes back to, remember, we did a podcast on this before about, when you want to go on a trip and then your husband is like, no, I don't want you to go on that trip. So like, what happens then, Joyce, when Jay tells you no, he don't agree with you going on the trip?
Well, thank God that hasn't happened, so I don't have an example of it. But I honestly feel I would not appreciate it. I honestly feel that because I don't know. I know that I would not be doing something that he would not feel like I shouldn't be able to. I think that would be the thing. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't feel like my husband would be okay with it. So if I'm bringing it to you, then I feel like I already know that you're going to be okay with it. And if you're not okay with it, I don't know what my reaction was. I'm serious.
Right.
I don't know what.
Okay,
I honestly think I might be a little hot.
And I think it'll be a deeper conversation.
But that's what I'm saying. Submission is not just about when you're agreeing, okay, you're good with the finances, you go ahead and do it. But, what if it's something that you disagree with, So then how do we handle submission? Okay, so I can give you an example. So
I don't think submission is that.
Yeah.
And see, that's my issue with submission, that people have taken it to expand it to every aspect of the marriage or relationship. It doesn't go to that broad of a spectrum. And
why doesn't it though? But why?
Because that's not here again. That's why I said it's very important to get it right in premarital counsel. Because if you look at it in the Bible, it does not define all things.
Right. But if we're talking about submission in a relationship and you're saying, okay, I'm yielding to the man being the head of the household and he's leading. So, okay. And so the man, you come in and you have these ideas, and then the man has these ideas and they don't match. He's saying, no, I don't think we need to do it that way. But you feel that you should do it that way. So you're saying you don't agree that, oh, the woman has to yield to the man because he is the leader?
I don't agree that I don't believe that submission is that definition.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I don't agree with that at all, because I think that's again the way that we have misconstrued the definition
Yeah.
altogether.
Okay.
I'm with Libby on
Yeah.
that. I think
Okay.
it's a little far fetched, you know,
Mhm.
when you're talking that way. I think it's
Mhm.
just a conversation of trying to find, you know, the balance in that more so than who's going to submit to who. It's
Mhm.
like let's figure out what is going to work for both you and I,
Yes.
and we keep that thing moving.
So,
But
so let's go back to when men say, okay, well, did you put your foot down? Everybody ever heard that before? Did you put your foot down and tell her
Did I
that's the
cuss?
way it's done? Now y'all acting like y'all never heard that before.
oh yeah, I've heard it.
Okay.
I've heard it, but it hadn't been said to me.
Listen, people like to live. People like to stay on this earth and not be underground. So there's a lot of phrases and words that will not be said unto
Yeah.
thee.
Mhm.
Unto thee. So I think, you know, I put my foot down. I don't have to put my foot down because I say what I say and I mean what I say.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so therefore nobody has to put their foot down.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The only thing we need to do is have what I call a dialogue or conversation. And it could be, I don't think you need to go on this trip. And my response would be, okay, let's talk about the why.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the why.
And then 3 weeks later, you on the trip.
Probably tomorrow. And then y'all be talking, living that, see, we got you married, but we didn't want you divorced the next day. But
Well, Dolores, we haven't heard from you yet. So glad that you were able to jump in. We're going back and forth on the definition of submission and what that looks like. So you just tell me, you know, these women said that no, putting the foot down, they're not familiar with that. And submission does not look like if the man of the household says, no, this is not the way that we're going to do this. We're going to do it my way. They're not accustomed to that. They said submission does not look like that to them.
But can you hear me? Can
Yes,
you hear
we
me?
can.
Because you know I've been having problems.
Yes.
You are not going to get me divorced. You are not going to do it.
We're trying to get them all divorced.
You-
I just wanted to bring clarity because for some men, that's what submission look like. They deem that as respect, and so
That is true.
Mhm.
we respect you.
That is true. But I don't think women, you know, you have to put your desires or your opinions because you may put your desires beneath his or your opinions that you're submissive. Uh, Everything is about respect in a relationship, and I think that is first. And I think women who are, you know, you have some really are submissive, you know, and I have to admire their strength and their character for that. But
Father,
I think that
receive all of
it's
it.
about a level of respect and understanding
Yeah.
and knowing that mate. And that is something you grew to learn about people and just learn about being in that relationship. I think years back, say like my mother's time or me even growing up, I think more back then women were submissive because women were not working. The men were working, men were the dominant. But if society was full of dominant people,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We lost her.
I think we lost her. But
Yeah.
you know what? Dolores brought up a good point.
Very good point.
And when you give the scenarios, and I understand what you're doing, it seems a bit extreme, right?
Mhm.
And whenever, and I'll tell young women, if you got a man that browbeats you with the Bible, you need to run from him quickly. You need to flee quickly, Libby. Kind of like Joseph did in Potiphar's house.
Come on.
Flee quickly.
And don't hold on to nobody's clothing. Just keep going.
Just keep going, because that is if a man will use the Bible against you to get you to submit, something's wrong with that.
Mhm.
When you love someone, because I was thinking about that trip thing, Libby and E. I was thinking about that trip thing. And I know ultimately my husband really wants a wonderful life for me. I know it. I've always known it. That's why I love him. And there's nothing, that's the scripture. There's no good thing will he withhold from me. There isn't. But if my husband said to me, Libby, I don't think you should go, and he qualified, he would never put the foot down. He wouldn't do that. Let me think about it for a minute.
I would love my husband not to be on crutches. So don't put your foot too many places.
I think that would be a heated discussion, which, let's just be transparent and truthful. We've had a lot of those in my marriage.
Yeah.
And we've had those where we've had to table that thing until the next day, next week, or next month, until we can have a rational discussion. So, but I believe we learned how to do that, you all. We didn't know how to do it. We learned how to do it.
Yeah. I think that happened in my household as well. Is that we had to learn each other, and like I said before, if it's a trip, that I feel like is an important trip for me to take, that's the explanation I'm going to give. This is why I want to take the trip, and be okay with it.
Yes.
And I have not run into anything any different, because I just don't have to just go and take trips just to take trips. I don't have to do that. And
but
I prefer.
Think the trip was just one example. There are multiple.
But I mean, but on
directions, even
on a piece of furniture.
And you said what?
Even on a piece of furniture. I mean, the other day Jay said, Joyce, don't bring nothing else in the house. I'm like,
what did you say?
Well, what you mean?
Right.
Use another table.
Well, what do you mean? And he was like, well, Joyce, I just think everything is just, set and nice. We don't need anything else. And I said, I see that too, except for downstairs.
A little something I need to put something down there.
A little something down there. So I mean, it's just things like that he might throw out, and I'd be like, so what do you mean? What do you mean by that? And that just opens up for discussion.
Yes.
To hopefully come to an end to where we're both okay with.
Yes.
So
and I think if we honor one another.
Yes.
If we honor one another, we shouldn't disrespect one another. But I get where you're going, E. There are cases and there are people who have this kind of relationship, have this kind of marriage, and that I can say, girl, let's get together to do X. Well, let me see what my husband says. Now, I'm okay with that if you're just seeing if there's something you all going to do that day, or you got children that you have to navigate that. But everything I ask you, you got to see what your husband says. That gives me a pause. It gives me a gigantic pause, because at that particular point, or you can't go anywhere. I don't do girls trips. I only do trips with my husband. Let me tell you, I know people like that will not go on a girls trip, would only go on trips with their husband, because that is something that their husband has instituted. And that's the insecurity.
Yeah,
that's an issue with trust. There's a lot of dynamics in that. But you know what? People do that all the time. I've had folk like that, and you see them. It just everything their husband has told them to do, they have to do. Men too. You see men with that with wives. I got to see my wives. I don't know about this. I can't do that. That kind of thing to me is not submission. That's
well, now that you brought that up, so who sets the tone in the relationship? Does the man set the tone in a relationship, or does the woman set the tone in a relationship?
Balance.
I think it's a balance of both. You
Mhm.
know, if you want a comfortable living space,
Yes.
you know, I think it has to be a balance of both.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, I think the house is the feel of a woman. You
Mhm.
know, if she has been given that, you know what I'm
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
saying? If you have that,
Mhm.
like I'm sorry, Jay don't know how to put stuff together, so he will not,
Mhm.
do it for my home. but
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's just a good balance of both. Like I had some relatives to come from Arizona, and they stayed with us. But before I said that they could stay, because I was talking
Mm-hmm.
to my cousins more than my husband was, I went to him and said, "Hey,
Mhm.
I have some
Mhm.
cousins who are coming to Georgia, hadn't been in 28 years. Is it okay for them to stay here?" And he was like,
Mhm.
"Yeah, Joyce, have they been vaccinated and shot?" He said all of those things. And I said, "Yeah, and they'll test themselves before they come." And then I went back to my cousin and say, "Hey, stay with us." And it was cool. But I think had I not done that, it
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
might have set the tone of the
Mhm.
house a little unbalanced. So
Yes.
I think it depends on some of the things that you have to do. Like I got an invite just today for a jazz friend artist of mine birthday party on next Thursday night, of which y'all I won't be here because he's a very dear friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have to wait and go ask Jay, is it okay for me to go to the jazz concert party? I know in that moment I could say, yes, I will be there. I'm going to say plus one, but I'm pretty sure he ain't going to come. But I know automatically
Yeah.
Mhm.
without having to confer with
Mhm.
my husband if
Mhm.
I can go to this event November
Mhm.
4th for this jazz artist's birthday.
Mhm.
And so I think that's the thing. If you know where your relationship stands and how
Mhm.
how you and your partner is,
Yeah.
then as a woman, as of me, I know I can answer some things without conferring with Jay. And then there's some things I know I have to talk to him about
Mhm.
first,
Mm-hmm.
out of respect.
Mhm. So
Yeah.
so you're confirming that your household is a man-led household.
Yes, to a degree. to,
Mhm.
to a
Uh-huh.
degree.
I'll confirm. I'll
You're
confirm.
confirmed?
Yeah, to a degree.
Yeah.
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 I can't confirm nor deny. Huh? Because listen, listen, children of God. I don't have I'm not married. Bless the wonderful name of Jesus. But when I get married, I do think I'll be married one day in this good old age of mine. Um, before I before I croak and go out of here. Y'all will come to a wedding.
It's interesting that you said that, Libby, because one of the reasons Fantasia, I think 2 years ago, she was on the Breakfast Club and she was talking about that for some reason, for some women, this is not all women, so I'm not putting all single women in this category,
Mhm.
but she said that for some women, the reason why they are single or are in still the single status is because they are not willing to let men lead. They don't know how to dial back and let men lead and let men be kings, and then the woman understand what the queen role looks like. And so she received a good bit of backlash in regards to that comment. Because people would just went took it all out of content. How we do Black Twitter
Or
does,
they took it in content.
or took well her thing was, you know her thing was that black women have been conditioned to be head of households because they've been single, had to raise the kids, had to take up extra jobs, had to do all these things that allowed them to lead in their own households, that it became conflicting and challenging for them to see men as leaders in this role in the roles and fall back because they've had to lead and be head of households.
Well, I mean, again, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
She speaks from her own context. If you know her story, you know her
Yes.
background, you
Mhm.
know how many times that she has been in terrible relationships, how she has dated the wrong people, how she even her first child's father, the the issues and things that she had. So when you meet someone who is completely opposite of that, and you are one who definitely wants to be married, and you are a needy person. Fantasia is a needy person. That's not anything unknown. If you follow her in any aspect, you will know that about her. It's not unusual that she would say that. It's not even odd. It's not surprising. It's not surprising that she constantly would call him king, and he constantly calls her queen, and and their household is set the way it is. Nothing is surprising in that from a Fantasia.
Well, we want to hear you from you
Yeah.
all tonight. Drop it in the chat, and if some men out there watching, please drop it in the chat. Oh, Rashana says, a man leading me, is it someone just telling me what to do? What does your prayer life look like? What we got going on with the credit score? I'm just saying. Right. So many men have said so many different things in regards to y'all name some dumb stuff men say about
Well, wait a minute,
women.
Eve. I think we got to flesh out the other part a little bit more. I think
What's that?
we got to flush out that, because I think um the issue with Fantasia is that there are women who are like that. I think we got to flush it out a little bit more, because you have a lot of single women out here.
Can
And
I flush a little bit?
yeah,
I'll flush.
sure.
I'll flush.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, I think we got to deal
Because
with it just a little bit.
I would flush from this perspective. Who died and made her the authority? Okay, that's number one.
Well, everybody has an opinion, Vicky.
Yeah, like everybody got some other parts of the body.
Yes, I
Everybody
know.
don't have
So
it.
everybody has
listen,
a voice.
God, but some
But
people are.
listen, Linda. This is the thing. Seriously,
You better.
get some season. Get some time built in that thing. Spend some time together. Some step. When you go looking for certain things that you want to purchase, major purchase, you're not going to just anybody. You're gonna go to a seasoned professional. You're gonna go to somebody that's learned. People come to your husband because of his maturity as a banker. You don't just go to anybody to hang out a shingle and say, I'm a banker, bring your money. No, you don't. You study. Now, I love myself some Fantasia. But when people go into the king and queen stuff, it just kind of pushes me a little. It just rubs.
Me too.
I don't walk around all day calling my husband king, you're my king, because I got a
Me
king,
too.
but my king is King Jesus,
And it ain't Eddie Kane. It's not Eddie Kane. It's not Eddie Kane now.
But I ain't begrudging. I won't begrudge women and men. That's how the culture of their home is. I adore my husband. He adores me. I don't call him out of his name, but I don't call him king. I don't. Okay, he don't have to ever call me queen. But I want you to treat me like one. Just treat me like one. I'm gonna treat you like one. We missing this thing up about walking around thinking we all that in a bag of chips.
Yeah.
You people are known by their works, not what they say. How do you live? So that's all the flushing I'm gonna do today.
And my thing is just because we have been leading our household, not necessary because by choice. It's just been the dynamics of what's happening in the single world.
Yes.
And we can't leave out, that men that some men are not serious. And that when you reach a certain age group, they've been married. Many of them don't want to marry again. So when you do meet a woman at a certain age and they have been, leading because they have to lead. I mean, what am I going to do? Stay at home with my parents until Prince Charming comes along and bring me out of my parents' house? No, I'm going to go off my own, buy me a home. I'm going to have a nice job. I'm going to take myself out to eat. I'm going to do things that I need to do because I'm getting to an age where I'm not going to be waiting. That's another conversation. Are we
I think
waiting on the king? I don't like none of that foolishness.
Yeah. But
why do I have to be waiting on him? He ain't waiting on me.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. But I think you relinquish those things too. I remember being an independent woman, but like Libby said, I had to be. I didn't have nobody else to do the oil changes and all of
And we
those things.
welcome that.
But when I did, I haven't been to a dealership, or oil change, a tire. I haven't done it.
I'm
Yeah.
Only
fine
thing
with
I
it.
do is I'll say, "Hey, such and such is happening with the car," and I'm
That's
done
it.
with it. You
Yeah.
know
I'm
what I'm
open to
saying?
it.
I'm done with. I don't think about it anymore because I
Hmm.
know this is one of the things that I know that he will handle, and
Yeah.
Sure.
and it's not like he haven't brought things to me that he knows that I will handle,
Absolutely.
and
Yes.
I'm cool with it. I was cool with dropping the independence. See, you hear me? I
Yes.
was cool with
And
and
the thing
and
about it
still is still cool
it's
with it.
and the thing about it, it's not necessarily a character flaw. It's
Mhm.
No,
just what is.
it's
So
Mhm.
just
if
a
there's a
moment.
person,
It's just what you in.
it's a season where you in. If
Yeah,
there is a person that comes along, and all of us have some independence within us anyway. So if
Yes.
a
right.
person comes along from me, and if that person is a person I feel is a right fit for me, and is what, excuse me, God is intending for my partner in life, I'm open to that. But
Mhm.
I'm not open to just having a partner. And
Mhm.
there's a difference in that. I'm not racing down anybody's aisle. I'm not fantasizing about this big nice wedding and putting on me a dress and feeding all these 50, 11 people with all my money at a reception. None of that does
Mhm.
anything for me. What does something for me is that if I can meet someone whom I feel like I can partner with on the long from the long haul, who has
Right.
the same morals I have, who has the same aspiration, who willing to accept me for who I am and allow me to accept him for who he is, and that we can grow in that aspect. Oh, we can be fine together.
Yeah.
Mm.
Problem is, don't be intimidated by me because what I have at this juncture in my life. You
Yes.
can come along to now.
Yes.
There's nothing can be changed about that. So I
And you
don't
know
need
what
to
I would
dial
say?
back for you. Hmm.
Go ahead,
Go
Dolores.
ahead,
I totally
Dolores.
agree with you. And what I would say to that, because I actually do applaud the young women today, because they are not like women years ago, years back, where the men were the dominant. I was talking about that earlier. Men were the dominant, and they ran the household, they did the everything. Women now today, they making their own money. Women can just do everything really for themselves. And so,
Mhm.
yes, you want someone equally yoked. You want to make sure that someone's not coming in, you are at one level and they're at another level. But a lot of people
Mhm.
like people for different reasons. Like some people, a lot of women like the bad boy, they like a roughneck. And that
Hmm.
happens a lot. And that's where
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
get the imbalance at. But a lot of relationships, you are gonna find you can't have two that's dominant. It's just not gonna work because you gotta balance each other out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but I would say for the young people today, I applaud them because everybody's not going to get married, and marriage is not for everybody. And
And
so
it's
Right.
I'm,
okay.
I'm sure in some areas that people are shaming because you're single, or make you try to feel because you're single or single so long something is wrong with it. I don't think so, because it's
Mm.
not for everybody. It's definitely a huge commitment. It's
Yes,
work. It's truly
Mhm.
a
yes.
journey. And in a lot of cases, some people would try to make you think that it's so great every day, and that's not true. It's work. So when you in long-term relationships that you see, those people been through some things. They've been through some things together,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and the fact
Yeah.
that they're still standing together, that's beautiful. But today, I think that the young women today, they just don't tolerate. That's the word Robert used last week. Tolerate. They're just not tolerating anything.
They
They're
just
just
ain't
not going
tolerant.
to do it.
But you
And
know what?
so you step on that toe, that's like we're getting a divorce.
But I applaud independent.
Yeah,
I
I
applaud
applaud
women
Libby.
and their
I
success
applaud
as
you
well.
all.
Yeah, I applaud them too. I applaud women who go out and make it happen and do things and just climb the ladders. I applaud that. I applaud it even in myself. But when
Yeah.
Joyce didn't have to go get the oil change, no,
Yes.
no. Joyce, let it go.
Baby,
You hear me? That's all I'm saying.
I'm
That's
bringing the
all I'm
garbage
saying.
around on garbage day.
Yes,
These are the
yes,
things
Right.
yes.
Let it go.
I'm
You
a
hear me?
for
Yes.
the
You know,
street.
and some men listening tonight will be like, those women don't really want men to lead. So I was reading. It was a unique article that says partnerships, certain roles that don't allow that should not allow women to emasculate men. Like so we've gotten to this space where okay, like you said, Dolores, because women can make their own money, they're independent, they can make their own decisions, then where's the room for the men to kind of lead or feel like, okay, they have a space to lead, or need it, that kind of thing. So,
Listen, I
You
got
have to
something.
make, you have to make, okay, we know in the relationships, and men, they like to feel like they are the leader, they're the dominant one, but actually it's the women. It's actually the women behind the man. And you just have to know how to do it.
Come on
You know
now.
how to make them, like franchise said, the king. You have to know how to make them feel like the king, but you already know who's running it. But you
Listen,
have to make them feel that way.
and
See,
So
you're
I
talking
want
good now. You're talking good because see, that's the key to
truly,
all of it.
truly,
It's making them feel good.
that's
That's
right.
it.
We
Come on
talked
now.
about that. But I got something I want to share, and I think it is a good time right now as we bring things to a wrap. One of my friends posted this today, so listen up, girls and guys. He talks about how to make a man happy. Okay, he gave 5 things, Libby. He said, don't make tacos every day.
Only on Tuesday,
He
baby. Go
said,
ahead.
take naps with him.
Come on.
He said,
Daytime cuddle.
be his best friend.
Hey, boo.
Don't bother him about the moves that he makes,
Bless him.
and give him some space.
Mhm.
Okay, 5 things. That's all. Now, how to make a woman happy? He said it's really not too difficult. But to make a woman happy, a man only needs to do this. Okay, here we go.
Plane ticket.
Be her friend, be her companion, be her lover, be her brother, be her father, be her master, be her chef, be her electrician, be her plumber, be her mechanic, be her carpenter, be her decorator, be her stylist, be her sexologist, be her gynecologist, be her psychologist, be her pest exterminator, be her psychiatrist, be her healer, be her good listener, be her organizer, be a good father, be very clean, be sympathetic, be athletic, be warm, be attentive, be gallant, be intelligent, be funny, be creative, be tender, be strong, be understanding, be tolerant, be prudent, be ambitious, be capable, be courageous, be determined, true and dependable and passionate, and without forgetting, give her compliments regularly, go shopping with her, be honest, be very rich, never stress her out, not look at other women, give her lots of attention, give her lots of time, especially for her self-care, give her lots of space, and never worry about where she goes. Don't forget birthdays, anniversaries, Valentine's Day. Damn, is that a lot to keep on?
And see, hence is why these folk are not marrying me. They look at the list and they said, the hell with you. You and your dog, y'all carry on. Do whatever y'all do.
You and your dog. Carry on.
I ain't got time for all that. I got to go through 11 things just to make you happy, child. Good night.
Come on.
If you ain't got them before 10 years, you ain't going to get them now.
You ain't going to get it.
Only at the Grown Folks Table podcast. We hope that you enjoyed pulling up to the Grown Folks Table. Yes. We'll be right back here next Thursday. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.